The Netflix tax makes a comeback. I'm Brian Lilly with TheRebel.media. Do you remember during the last federal election when Stephen Harper and the Conservatives warned that if the Liberals or New Democrats were elected, there would be a Netflix tax? Yeah, Stephen Harper did an ad about it, and he was mocked incessantly online and in the media.
Something you might not know about me is that I love movies and TV shows. One of my all-time favorites is Breaking Bad. It's even available on some online streaming services if you've never seen it. Some have even called on us to introduce a Netflix tax. Now, Justin Trudeau and Thomas Mulcair have left the door wide open to doing just that.
So now Harper's performance is getting harsh reviews, even downright mockery. Time magazine jokes it's Canada's big election issue.
Kind of unusual for the Prime Minister of Canada to stand up and promote an American broadcaster that he's not collecting HST from.
Unlike domestic streaming services like Show Me or Crave, owned by CTV's parent company, Bell, California-based Netflix pays no Canadian taxes.
Well, now we've got the Commons Heritage Committee meeting, and today they were hearing from Friends of Canadian Broadcasting head Ian Morrison, or as I like to call him, the friend of the CBC, because that's mainly who Morrison and his lobby group push for. More funding for CBC, more taxes, more regulation. This is what they want. Now, Pierre Nantel of the NDP was the first to say it. He wants a Netflix tax.
What the CRTC must answer for is how it would introduce a whole new regime for television in Canada without costing it, without studying it, without finding out the economic impact. Peter?
I can add something this year. Sales tax on Netflix.
Why does he want a Netflix tax? He wants it to be used to fund Canadian content and local programming. And not to be outdone, Seamus O'Regan from the Liberals brought the idea up with Morrison again.
Now, let me pick up on where my colleague actually just left off, Monsieur Nantel, and what would your response be then to the proposal? Because, I mean, this is something that many people hold here near and dear, the idea of taxing Netflix. What would your response be to people who immediately would fill the open line shows and protest such an idea?
Not surprisingly, Morrison supports the idea of a Netflix tax, and he wants that money to be used to fund Canadian content, most of which that funding will go to CBC. Look, this is an idea that's been studied by the CRTC, it's been studied by government, and it has been rejected. The idea that you're going to tax an online service, be it Netflix, Google Play, or iTunes, well, that's just ridiculous. What next? Are they going to tax The Rebel as well? Do we all have to pay into a fund because we produce content that is shared online? Do we have to pay into a fund that then turns around and pays for traditional Canadian programming, traditional Canadian content for the major networks? That is the idea. That is what they want. If the market wants it, the market will provide it. Canadian content has improved over the years. Think of shows such as Flashpoint or Saving Grace. You can think of the productions that happen in Canada that are aired on American networks but still have Canadian actors in them. Look at a show like Suits, currently shooting its 6th season in Toronto. It's a hit on the USA Network, and almost all of it shot in Toronto itself. There are examples like that all across the country, but let me ask you this. What good would come from taxing online services, from putting a tax on whatever movie or TV show you download on iTunes or Google, for putting a tax on your monthly Netflix subscription? The fact is, the Canadian industry in terms of media is changing. And the answer is not more regulation, more taxes, more fees to prop up what has been in place for decades. It's to get out of the way. Creators will create and audiences will seek out that which they desire. But trying to use the regulator to force consumers to suck up what the rent seekers will provide to them, that's the outdated model. That's the model that could survive when King of Kensington was considered the best Canadian content that could be provided, when Littlest Hobo was cutting edge. Those days are long gone. I don't want a Netflix tax or an iTunes tax or a Google Play tax or a Rebel tax to be imposed in order to turn around and see that money handed off to those who like big salaries, don't like work, but like making sure that you pay for their lifestyle. It's the wrong way to go. If the CRTC is smart, they'll continue down the path to less regulation and allow creators to share their content, sell their content to willing audiences. Canadians love Canadian stories, and they will support successful enterprises. The enterprises that are willing to give consumers that which they desire, not that which regulators and arts bureaucrats decide we should watch.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of The Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.